go on a little earlier on this weekend before I go on my hike, and I go ahead and get all finished getting cleaned up. So right now I'm just taming, touching, moisturizing my hair before I go on my walk. But as I was saying, y'all, I could live under a bridge and be happier than most people. Okay, and I'm gonna have this conversation with whoever is up on this Saturday morning. Um, and I'll explain why I can. Okay, all I'm doing is kind of reach up, touching up the side of my hair that I slept on, like right there. Some water here. We're gonna wait till we get more people in here. I don't know if y'all seeing my videos anymore, but I told y'all I'm gonna keep the channel up for as long as I can while I'm downloading videos. All right. So I'm just So the title, as y'all read, which is the truth, I could live under a bridge and be happier than most people. Hey. And the reason being, we're gonna wait. I don't know if y'all seeing me. Do anybody see me on it in this video? Let me see here. Okay. I think y'all not getting my notification. Okay. So I don't know. It's weird that a lot of y'all don't see me. Or the number's not right. If you can see me, if anyone's watching, please say you're watching, because I can't tell. And I don't want to start talking with the video subject if people aren't on yet. Okay, somebody's watching. Okay. All right, I'll start. Everybody else is just gonna have to wait. So I can live under a bridge and be happier than most people. Okay. 90% of the world. And the reason why is because I never look outside of myself. Like, I don't never look around and let that determine my power. A lot of people, they say my, like, where I'm living, who I'm living with is a part of my power source, but it's not. Okay. We got to remember there were saints and like people in history that have done great things, and yet they was in horrific environments we would consider horrific, or they was literally living off the street. Now, in order to really do great things, you still have to be pretty powerful and strong. You do also have to be less emotionally messy and chaotic. Okay, even the people that create brilliant art, a lot of them are still had, a lot of them are not as emotionally messy as other people, because the emotional, that they are more in control over what emotions that they're using. In order to be able to do that, you have to actually be less upset. Okay, for example, let's say you are really upset with where you're living at, the city you're living in. You're going to stay in that energy of complaining about it, trauma, talking about your trauma from your city, and you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. But the people who are determined to keep the happiness that they have left, or to get more happiness, those are the people who can literally create no matter where they are. For example, Hemingway wrote his Pulitzer Prize winning book, his Nobel Prize winning book as well, while he was rural poor, like rural poor, y'all, with kids. Okay, all he had was a kitchen table and a typewriter on his table. Dude didn't even have a room to write in. He didn't have a living room. Nothing. And they were that poor, and it was very little space because of the size of his family. So he had to write his best-selling book sitting at the kitchen table while everybody's walking around him the whole time. Like, he talked about how he never had no quiet while he was writing his books. The point that I'm saying is that takes somebody that's like, I ain't even bothered by this situation. for him to be able to do that. So I have written so many exceptional poems. I've written so many exceptional songs that were produced by different producers. I wrote a whole album for a producer, a very gifted producer. And guess what? I was living very humble. Okay. I basically had nothing in my house. It was hardly like nothing in here. And my apartment was super small. Like small, like size of basically a basic motel. It was small. And yet I wrote my great work. You know, some of my best songs was written in that situation where I was sleeping on a super small bed that was had old fashioned springs to it. I didn't have nothing. I basically had one stack of clothes only. But why wasn't I out of shape, unhappy, complaining? It's because I made up my mind that what would make me happy is what I can do. What I can do that cannot be denied is great. What I can do. What I can do that nobody can ever say sucked. What nobody can ever hate. Okay, when you grow up with almost nothing, you learn to find happiness from what you can do. I grew up extremely humbled. Okay, let me tell you how humbled I grew up. Most people don't tell y'all this. Okay, I tell people I'm very humble. I'm very covered and favored. It's because I grew up. I grew up extremely humble, and I still kept faith in God. I still went to church. I still prayed. I still created. I still looked on the bright side and said, yeah, I still got poetry. I can still write poetry. I can still dance my butt off. And I had that mindset, regardless of how humbled and horrific my living conditions was. And when I tell y'all they was horrific when I was little, okay, I was exposed to drug addicts, alcoholics, pimps, people that had serious criminal records. These people was walking around me. So basically, I was in environments in which my life was in bona fide danger. Being a very beautiful little girl, everybody said I was so beautiful, and being around that type of environment every day. These crazy, insane people with knives and guns on them walking all around me. So I've been there, okay, and having to be tough, even though I know that one of them could snap at a moment and might go ahead and knock me inside my head with a gun. But I still had to be tough. Me and my siblings still had to be tough because we knew if we got too weak, if we started that complaining and all that, they would take advantage of us then. They would take advantage of us. And why was we in that environment? Because that was all my mother could afford at the time. Okay, this is my childhood is literally a box office hit. I wrote some poems about it, and people were like, is this true? I've had people say, is this true? And I say, yeah. They say, ooh, child. I've had people ask to write my life story. I ain't gonna say it all because it's a box office hit, and if I ever went to write all my memoirs, they would sell like hotcakes. I already plan to do that, but I'm gonna get a little older before I write my memoirs. But I can remember being around, growing up in an environment with people talking to themselves, real insane. People really quick to punch you in your face over word. Like if you just grunt when they spoke to you, pow, right in your face. I grew up in that type of environment. I grew up in an environment in which somebody was saying I was a foster kid at one point, but my family lied to us and told us that we weren't foster kids. Like that type of BS. Okay. So at one point I was a foster kid, and me and my siblings, and we literally slept on a cold basement floor in this foster home. And we literally had no blankets. We was in pitch dark, little kids sleeping in pitch dark basement on a cold floor with roaches running around you. Okay. With people upstairs who are pedophiles, who are violent offenders and stuff. And we downstairs, okay? And only because the foster mother, she was keeping all the money that my mother was sending her. Okay? My mother was handling, it's a long story, criminal case, but she wasn't the one guilty though. Okay? She wasn't the one, she was the defender in the situation. Okay, she was attacked, but she was dealing with that. So the ruling ended up being in her favor. But until then, we had to be away for her. So we was in a foster home, and we never got none of the money that my mother was sending us, because my mother had worked hard before she even went away. So she had a little nest egg, and she really didn't spend no money but on us. So as she was getting I think she got work leave check or whatever, temporary laid off, while she was getting those checks and whatever government money she might have getting. I think she was getting cash, but not stamps. But she was sending us money. But the foster home mother was keeping it. Now she got some karma, some horrific karma. She paid a heavy price. So I'm not going to talk bad about the woman. She didn't get her karma, and it was really bad. But anyway, she was starving us out, making us eat smushed up food of other people's scraps, like weird, insane stuff. So I've been in really worse situations that's worse than living under a bridge. Okay. I remember at one point when we were living with my grandmother, who was extremely an aggressive woman at random. I can remember being so tired of the toxic environment that I started staying over a friend's house whose apartment was so little, it was no bigger than a motel room, smaller than a motel room. And it was really run down, like all the walls was peeling in places, like a lot of peeling and stuff, roaches running around. But I preferred to stay there than stay in my toxic grandmother's house. Okay, but even still, I was writing some of my best work. I didn't know yet. Even still, I was in the best shape of my life. My hair was down my back. I realized that home is not a permanent thing. Home is not something that you're forced to be in. You ain't got to be in here. You can run away whenever you feel like it. You can stay away for the year whenever you feel like it. That's the bottom line. Our homes has a fake imaginary chain. There is no chain of you in your home. There isn't. Because you can literally walk out of your home right now and say, I'm done with it. And the state take it over, they auction it out, and you're good. Like, you're good. Okay? So the point is, yeah. Now y'all see why I'm so wise. Now y'all see why the Creator allows me access to so much knowledge. Because I was in wars that some people don't survive as a little kid, okay? I remember fighting a 300-pound guy who was trying to sexually assault me in that basement with the roaches. I can remember that. And I can remember me and my siblings playing watch game where, like, who's going to stay woke and see if somebody come for us? Stuff like that. I can remember it got to a point where if we just heard a creak in the creek, we jumped out of our sleep. Okay? It's wild, y'all. If I told y'all the stories, all the stories, like y'all, it was real, but I'm not gonna lie to y'all. At one point when I got in high school, I had enough. I had enough of dragging insane, alcoholic, demonic family members out of drunken holes in the wall, being a teenager with them leaning on my shoulder, trying to get them home at night. I shouldn't even been doing that. I should have been out here having a good time as a teenager instead of saying, oh, I got to go because I got to get my drugged up family member out of out of the hole in the wall and get them home. I used to cut my date short. I used to cut my day short and be like, I gotta go because I don't want my family member to be laid out in the street somewhere, drugged up and raped or robbed or something. So I gotta go and get them out this hole in the wall. Yeah. Yeah. Till one day I got tired of it in my senior year, all these toxic demonic family members and is this these demonic friends they got. I literally just walked out. And what I'm telling y'all is what I did. I walked out and left everything. I left my clothes, my yearbook, I left poetry. Okay? 18 years worth of poetry in buckets, in chitlin buckets. I used to keep them in chitlin buckets because I didn't have no drawer. I used to have to keep my poetry folded up in letters, folded up in chitlin, leftover chitlin buckets. Anyway, y'all, I can remember doing that. And at 18, I said, I'm sick and tired of the passive aggressiveness. This family will give you a gift and then you'll suffer and suffer 10 times, 15 times more. Your whole life will be jacked up after that. It just got crazy, y'all. This is something that is probably going to piss my family off for telling the cold hard truth. Okay, there's other stuff if they're watching. If my family's watching, you can sit up here and pretend like this stuff wasn't going on. And I don't care because truth needs to be told so people out here will see that other people have been through hell. And if they can make it through, they can make it through. And so I'm going to tell the truth when I feel like it. Okay, family? You know, 95% of y'all I don't even F with anyway. So why are you watching me? Okay? All right, let's get it. Because y'all know the demonic family members don't never leave you alone. They watch you from a distance and all that. And they're flying monkeys. And their golden children will watch you. But anyway, let's move on. Whew. So I ended up walking out and leaving everything. I was sitting on my very first book of poetry that I worked on all through high school and middle school. I left it all. Just walked out. I just sat down on some random steps and said, I ain't going back. I was like, I'd just rather be homeless out in these streets now. I'm good. And I was sitting at them steps so long, and the guy that I was not even a real serious relationship, he called me and said he was calling and said he couldn't reach me. My sister said he was calling and said I ran into my sister. I said I'm not going back there. I'm done. I'm done. And what happened was I went to his job, okay, and he happened to be there. And I waited till he got off. And he was like, I was trying to reach you. I said, yeah, my sister told me. And long story short, I said, he ended up asking me, where you going? I said, here. He said, where you staying? I said, out in the street, I guess the local shelter or something. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with what's coming through the house, what's coming with all that there. And he was like, my mother has an upstairs attic that you can rent out. I mean, I'll move in if you want me to help you out or whatever. And and then I said, fine. But he ended up proposing to me. Little did I know that he is actually basically fated to help me. He's fated to help me. Regardless, even if we ain't together. Now, he's my husband. I ended up marrying him, and he is my daughter's father. But no matter what he do, and no matter what I do, we still help each other because he's fated to. Sometimes people are fated to help you. They're not always fated to be the perfect partner. Okay, but that's another story. But through my husband, I learned forgiveness. So I was able to forgive them eventually, forgive that whole ratchet situation from childhood up. Okay. Because I also forgave, that situation has no real power over me anymore. Okay. So not only am I like, hey, that wasn't hard for me to do. It's just, I realized that what we consider worse conditions is not. Maybe our condition is actually worse. That's deep. People like to say, well, think optimistic. That situation, the grass is greener over there and not here, or the grass is greener here and not there. But in my situation, being in the middle of the road and out in the street was actually greener. And I knew it. I knew that God was going to come through, whether I had to go through the shelter, Urban League or whatever and all that. I knew that I just had to wait. And let me tell y'all, twice I did that and help came out of nowhere. So this is why I don't dwell on environmental situations, because I know that the table can't turn in the opposite for you forever. It's impossible. Okay. The energy, the cosmic energy always requires balance. So there's no such thing as the table's not coming around for you. Okay. Reason why the table didn't come around is that as it was coming around, you put it in reverse because you did not wait for the solution. Jumped the gun, did something that you wasn't supposed to do. For me, if I would have stayed in that situation, that wasn't me waiting for the solution. That was me saying there ain't no solution to this. That was me saying every other solution is worse than this situation. That was what I was saying. So I took a leap and said, I'm gonna go out there and sit out. I'll sit out here. And if anybody asks me, I guess I'll end up sitting outside the shelter building. And I learned that the people who we think is in worse situations and people who we think is struggling, them was the main people to get you out your situation. Them is the main people that will get you out your situation. We think that it's the rich people. Nah. What makes you think they want you to be with them? A lot of them don't want you to be there. They want to enjoy their rich without you maybe becoming competition. The people that will get you out your situation that you may not see is the people that you think is in as bad situations as you or worse. My life is living proof of that. My life is living proof. Okay? I worked for rich people. None of them cared that I was making $7 an hour at that job. Each one of them reminded me of it and did nothing. And some of them owned companies. Somebody owned Kennywood. The guy who owned Kennywood Park did not care that I was being ripped off. Okay, I ain't gonna say his name. The one owner of Kennywood Park. He wasn't tipping me. He was using me up as a client, and he wasn't sending. That man is worth millions. And his little raggedy butt had me remembering his passwords, codes, whatever, signing him in, checking on his phone calls and stuff, any calls coming through, and that dude never tipped me. This is one of the owners of Kennywood Park. I worked for some famous people. And believe me, a lot of them don't give a damn about you. They don't give a damn about you getting what they getting. So I learned every time I was in my situation, I knew that divine ones are walking around very humble. And they're going to walk around. They're going to walk past me. Something's going to come. All I got to do is be open, to love the world, even though I'm in the crossroads. Even though I'm in the crossroads, I can't pull back the love then. I got to still be about the world. Okay. Hi, everybody. Now, I'm not going, somebody said DNA. I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Nobody in my family has genetics so much like mine. But my little sister do. She has some. And she also tends to attract help and divine angels out here. They just, gravitate towards her, like me. And she was in the same situation. It was me and her going through it together. Everybody else was good. Everybody else in the family was good. Me and her. Okay, so obviously our ancestors showed up. And our ancestors are protecting us from the demonic, toxic family members. So that's why no matter what happens in me and my sister's life, something always works in our favor. The tables always come right back around for us. Okay? When you grow up and you and somebody else in your family is constantly like never happy, it was never, only happiness we had is sharing books between us and coloring books and video game. But everything else was like real toxic. Okay. Our stepfather was like our momentary freedom away from toxicity in the family. Okay. But my mother was hardly around. She worked a lot. She had to squeeze in time with us. So we was constantly exposed to demonic people who just forced their way into our presence. Like they were forcing their way around us. Even when my mother said, don't come around my kids, they still would do it. So, a lot of us just like roll. But me and my older sister are the ones that just roll. We just roll. My older sister did the same thing. She just walked out and was found her way. Just found her way. I did the same thing. I just jumped out the nest. Okay. I didn't have no money. I didn't have no plans. I didn't have nothing. I just jumped out. My little sister didn't do that. My brother did it too. He jumped out. Okay. But he didn't jump. He told my mother he was moving out. I just jumped. I didn't tell nobody. Okay. My older sister jumped. She didn't tell nobody. Nobody knew. But we found our way. We both found husbands. We both got homes. We both got cars. And we both had years in which we both lived in super small apartments, eating the same poor man's meal for a little while. Sometimes able to have takeout once a month and being grateful when we could eat steak. We've been there. And that's why me and my older sister are women that, like, you can say you can buy me this and all that, but we really don't care. Can you buy me something that I need? Like a washer or a car? Because the way Pennsylvania is set up, you have to have a car in Pennsylvania. Okay. It's really hard to get around in Pennsylvania without a car. But other than that, I don't want I don't need fancy clothes. I don't need jewelry. I don't need 14-day stay at the Sheraton or the Ritz. I don't need that. I don't need any of that. I don't need to look like I'm famous. I don't need $100 hairdos. None of that type of stuff. I need what I need. And if I had that, I'm good. I'm just good. What I need is time for my creativity. Can you cover me? Can you help me cover me for the next 2 weeks so I can write my bestseller? That's what I need. I need peaceful sleep. So I glamorize my needs. My needs is my wants. It's like my mind is wired that way. I don't know if it's like spiritually, cosmically put in me before I was born. It was a part of the God particle. And that's why I have that type of emotional connection to needs that a lot of other people don't have. I have family member here that thinks that their life is, they're struggling, they're dirt poor because they can't have the video, picture, book, beach, whatever life. But I'm like, are you serious? You literally have somebody alive that will come through for you, and you're gonna say you failed, that your life sucks. I said that's an insult to me. That's an insult to me. Because if you ever say you feel like you're way behind in life, you know I'm gonna do something to remind you that you got abundance that other people don't have. You got somebody effing real helping you. Like real, a real person. Somebody to keep it real helping you. I told my family member, do you know how blessed you are? Somebody that is not your flesh and blood is sitting up here, keeping it real, coming through, will sell anything if it's going to help you. You got somebody like that in your life. Okay? And when I said that, I guess it finally hit on them. They meditated on that for like a couple of weeks recently. And now they was like, you know what, I'm a look out for you more, and okay. And they were like, I'm sorry. And I was like, it's good, but I was offended. I said, because wasn't nobody coming through for me and my sisters. We was just stuck. Wasn't nobody, because my stepdad was real sick. I said, till he got better, we was just stuck like Chuck up in the basement with roaches. We little kids, what can we do? Little kids can't go out here in these streets and make it on their own and stuff. This ain't them times anymore. This ain't the Great Depression times. This is like your life is in danger if you're a kid out here. So there was nothing we could do. I said it ain't the Great Depression times, y'all. Because, you know, they can go out there and sell apples and make it. As a little kid, you could do that. But now you can't do that. So we just had to deal with funky criminal pedophile dudes with roaches and sleeping on cold, dirty basement floors huddled together. We just had to deal with that and hope that whatever money was getting sent to us, we would finally get, you know? And guess what? I got all these aunts and uncles and they ain't send nothing, no money. They ain't even drop by and say, I'm taking my nieces and nephews out this situation. They didn't even come through. They was all just demonic. And that's just real talk, y'all. So, this is why when y'all see me scream and holler, curse, and snap the hell out when evil come through this channel, and now y'all see why. I have a lot of deep-rooted despise for people who do people dirty. I hope that God remove it out of me one day and I can be little bit compassionate to them. But I think I'm never going to be, because what happened to me and my siblings, me and my disabled little sister and my older sister for a short time. How I had to take beatings so my disabled little sister don't get beat. I didn't want them beating on her. So I would just, for no reason, y'all, we was beat because we was beautiful. That was the reason. Okay. And this 250-pound raggedy looking woman beating on some little tiny little kids. But she got her karma. But anyway, what was going on there in my mind keeps me extremely disgusted and appalled towards evil. There's a such thing as being bad, and then there's evil. Okay? There's demonic behavior. There's bad human behavior, and then there's demonic human behavior. And when I sense demonic human behavior, it makes me, pull out lightning. I might start straight striking up in this channel. That's no different than me having a metaphysical knife or sword and cutting the person for being evil up in this channel. All right. So I'm telling y'all, we're that random. Y'all see me snap out on people in here. because I can sense the true evil energy coming through here of that person and what they said, okay, and whatever evil subliminal messages they posted in the chat. So when I snap out and I say, go to F off, come through, mother effer, it's because I've been in a situation where if I wasn't a little kid, I would have been able to come for the evil. I would have been able to come for that evil. Kids need protected from evil. Okay. My daughter don't know my family, don't know those people really. She might have seen them once or twice at a cookout or maybe, but she ain't never lived with them. She ain't never had to stand near them. Actually, I say stand away. If they ever come around at a funeral, I say, daughter, I'll call my daughter and be like, daughter, get up. Even if she grown. My daughter, it was grown. And when my mother died and my daughter, when we went there, I said, don't you stand near them demons. I said, don't you go nowhere near them demons. She said, I ain't, Mom. I told my grown daughter that. And I said, when I roll, you roll. When I go over here, you go over here. You either stay near your dad or near me. And she protected her energy, okay? Because they do spell work too, y'all. They actually had a room where they were literally doing evil spell work on people. But that's another story, okay? Whew. I ain't getting this. This attitude ain't for y'all. This attitude is for evil, that evil energy. And when you grew up with bona fide, legit evil energy and you looked into the eyes and truly saw the true demon in somebody, you saw it, black eyes like a shark, you say, you know what? No home is enough for me to say it's home. That's just not enough, man. When you start calling something home, that's when you start to see if it's good, if it's better for you, if it's neat or clean enough. That's when you start looking. Stop calling it home. If you don't like where you are, say, this ain't my mother effing home. Like straight up. Okay? I have a poetry workshop I'm going to be hosting. It's going to be a repeat. Okay? Since then, this is National Poetry Month. And that's one of the type of poems I'm going to help people to write. Okay? I'm going to have the workshop this evening. Okay? It's Saturday. It'll be this evening and it'll be free. I'm going to keep the workshop free today to get back to y'all. Some of y'all may not know that I got an unexpected gift yesterday. A car. Okay? Now, it ain't the newest car. But it's the best car, one of the best cars I have, because it came from somebody that knows cars. Somebody who fixed cars. So this is the best car I have driven in years, because that person also said they will fix the car because they love the car. They'll fix the car for a discount, and the fixes that it need now, they're going to fix for free. And they're not doing it because they're family. They're doing it because they have finally learned the difference between real love and fake love in the family. Okay? So this person realized that even though my family members wasn't coming through, when my car went down, the person realized that that's not enough to make me lose faith in God. I'm still in here grinding, making it. Money's still coming to me. I'm still getting it in here. So I showed that person that God is real and that home is only what you say is home. You've been saying those fake people is home, but now you see this is home. Now you see this here is home. This here. This is one of your homes. Now they see. Okay? And so they decided, instead of selling the car, they gave it to me. Okay? What I did to teach this person, okay, what home is. A lot of people don't know what home is, and that's why they loving the wrong people and hating the wrong people. And that's just the truth. Okay? People are saying, I love that home. I love that home you living in because you probably interested in that person. That person matches the home, is going with that home. And it's like, that's the type of person you probably want as a friend or a family member. And so you sitting up there saying that's home. And yet you don't know what demonic energy coming with that beautiful home with that person. And it looks like they beautiful. You don't know. So you cannot get the benefits that's coming from the place that you saying ain't home. Y'all, this is deep. You can't get the benefits from the place you saying ain't home. Okay? Because you think walls and floor make the home. That's what you think. Most people say the walls and floor make the home. Okay? And how big it is. But that's not true. That's not true. Okay? That's not true, y'all. I lived in a basement apartment after sleeping on a basement floor as a kid. I went back to living in a basement apartment. Okay? Now, I'm not gonna lie, in the middle of my childhood, we lived in some decent, average homes, not middle range, but average, according to the modern society. But that was when my mother ended up making more money or whatever. But fast forward, I lived in a basement apartment when I was 18 years old. Okay, what nobody knew is that when I was coming to high school to graduate, I was living in a very, very humbling situation. Okay. If I went by the fact that it was a basement, it looked kind of basementy, it looked a very 50s, 60s basement or whatever. If I went by that, I would have ran out of that home. If I went through the way the modern believe what a home is, modern society believe what a home is. Okay. And I have a little famous quote in scripture for this for y'all, but we'll get to that in a minute. I would never have learned the thing. I learned so much living in our basement apartment. I learned how to live off the land. I learned how to live off vegetables, to grow my own plants. Okay. We did have a garden. The landlord said, y'all can use that. I don't know what y'all gonna do with that because it's like all trees and weeds. Them weeds was about this high. Okay. We went out there, me and my husband went out there. No, we wasn't even husband and wife. We had a wedding day set. We had the rings on though. We went out there and we cut all those weeds down for like a month, y'all. It was crazy. Okay. He ended up getting poison oak and so did I, but it's a different story. But we cut it all down. We laid down the dirt. We chopped up the dirt. We put the tarps down. This was a whole spring and summer project. And then the next year we grew our own vegetables. We grew our own some fruit. Y'all, no lie, y'all. While living in a basement apartment, we was in the best shape of our life. We was living it up. We might not be able to afford a fancy home, but we was living fancy. And that's real talk. We was going to Erie, lakes, different states, cities, whatever. We was going on long 4, 5, 6 hour rides, national parks, you name it. You would have thought we felt rich. We felt rich because we had a life and we knew that home is not where we live. Home is the people we see and the things that we do. And this is the realest video, y'all. I'm living in a bigger house right now. I lived in a fancy, considered high-end apartment when my daughter was little. Okay? I did that for her. Her friends coming over, she, whatever. But I didn't give a darn. I would have took a basement apartment still. But my daughter, little kids growing up, they want friends, they want to, whatever. So we moved into a fancy apartment. And I used to always say to my husband, I want the life that we had up in the basement. And he couldn't see that we didn't have no home no more. He couldn't see it. I knew. But then after a while, he said, I'm getting tired of this. And he was like, we doing things. We gonna do things somehow. And I remember our electric got cut off briefly. I said, this is ridiculous. I'm on here selling stuff that I own on eBay to pay the electric bill, all cause so we can have a life. I said, no, this is atrocious. So we moved into a smaller apartment, the smallest we could find, the more humbled enough, but nice enough for my daughter to live in. And her room was real small, but we explained to her, the room is for sleeping. That's it. You want to play, come in the living room. We'll move the dining room table, or you go outside. Well, I'll take you outside. So tell my daughter that. She met the best friends of her life and living in that tiny little small apartment with her small room and my small room, or whatever. Me and my husband sleeping on a full bed, okay? Small bed where we up against each other, but that's another story. We lived humble, but we lived the life that we wanted to live in the true home, which is the outdoors, okay? And y'all heard my daughter on here say we was always doing things. We was just always living. My daughter will tell you that. She told everybody on this channel. She got to have a childhood life like living that I never got, with no demonic people around her. Her apartment was humbled, but her life was abundant. And that's the bottom line. I know I've been dealing with illnesses and sicknesses, y'all. I'm not going to lie to y'all, but my ancestors keep coming through and taking it out of me. What went on there when we got grown, because there's some things I can't even say on this channel because YouTube might stop the channel, put, viewer discretion advised or whatever. The video might get deleted. So I can't say everything. But what went on there ended up affecting us once we got the age that they was. Once we got close to their age, that's when we all started getting sick. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Me and my sisters, my siblings, me and my little sister especially was like running to the hospital. Like straight having miscarriages, all type of wilds, y'all. Teenagers dealing with sicknesses, 19-year-olds, like I got migraines from it. Okay, there's a blood vessel not working in my head right. Okay, because I had blunt force trauma to the head as a kid, and I was in a car accident, but I was already suffering it before that. So now it's done. Like, this can't be healed in my head. So I ended up becoming very neurodivergent because of that situation, because of what happened. So yeah, it does affect you when you older. But I noticed that every time I would not get well, all of a sudden help would come. Like, it's almost like my ancestors is like, you don't got to worry about it. We didn't came to help whatever they did to you. Okay. Hi, I like to see y'all talking on the weekend. But like my husband, he was raised to think that home is how much you got, how nice your stuff is. He don't care about that now, y'all. He's like, no, I'm good. He said that actually years ago, about 10 years ago, he realized like I'm falling back. Like he realized that he still didn't get emotional fulfillment. Okay. He still was hunger for more companionship with me, and with love and attention and fun times and stuff. He realized like that's home. Okay. When we started going camping again, me and him learned that sitting there in the camping trip and only got what we need, that feel a lot like home. Less bondage, less anchors. Okay. Not having a bunch of unworthy people around us. We ain't got to deal with toxic co-workers. We ain't got to deal with toxic neighbors. You know, just like us up in the woods somewhere. Home, y'all. That peace, I still ain't found that type of home peace since we have been unable to go again. But we're gonna probably do a little anniversary. I think next year we'll do it. Me and my daughter go to our old camping spot and reminisce, you know, like a sort of because it'll be 10 years, 10, yeah, it'll be about a 10-year anniversary that we went camping at the same spot with my daughter. So we might go next year to celebrate. I know somebody saying that's expensive. No, it's not. You can literally rent a cabin for a couple of days. You know, a meager humber cabin for a couple of days for like $700. Now I know y'all say that's a lot. No, if you stop overbuying, if you stop renting Netflix movies, if you stop buying alcohol or drugs and stuff, I'm telling you that money will stack up like that. If you cut a lot of unnecessary expenses out. Because the only thing that's really necessary, other than light, gas, food, and medical, whatever, medical care, the only thing that's necessary for you to spend your money on is actual good experiences. Okay? So if you just stop wasting money, energy, and time, over time you'll be able to afford a $700 cabin vacation, you know? And you can go ahead and work on your best art there. You'll have a story to tell the grandkids one day. You'll have pictures, maybe videos, because we got phones you can do all that with. You know, and you got a memory to store in your brain whenever you get sick and tired of your fake home. Y'all, this is y'all know I be sassy in my weekend videos. Whenever you get tired of your fake home because you got newer walls than somebody else, your home is pretty good. You got that memory from that camping trip, but eventually you're going to be like, you know what, I need a real home where I sleep at too. And if it's quiet, if I don't have people over crossing my boundaries, and if I don't have a lot of wicked people coming through, and if my bills ain't ridiculously high, maybe this could be something of a prototype to a home. Okay? Until I start being able to be creative there, until I start being able to do spiritual stuff in that home, that's not home yet. So it's still just a prototype of it being home. Y'all, if you like this video, hit the like button. Okay, y'all. All right. If this touched anybody's mind, you know, leave a comment. You know, if you'd like to send a cash appreciation gift, you can send it to my Cash App at Coach B Hunter. So y'all, one day I came in here, as I finished this side of my hair, I'm gonna have this conversation with y'all. One day I came in here and I just stood and I stared, y'all. And I said, you know what? I said, damn. Okay, I have everything I need. Like, I literally have everything I need. And I was just like, you know, I said, I have the things I really need. I said, so I'm gonna be more grateful. Okay, I'm good. And I found myself now, I gotta seal in moisture, y'all, because it kind of went dry. I found myself now going, when I go to people's channels and they're living in real fancy looking homes, I often say, but what are they doing with their time? I say that. I say, but who do they have in their energy? I say, what are they creating for the world instead of um uh showing everybody they got a fancy home on YouTube? What instead of that's what they trying to do, and what aren't they doing? What aren't they doing that they would do without money? Okay, because I see a lot of people with viral channels and they're living in fancy homes, real fancy homes, and they're selling stuff through their channel. And I say, okay, how much peace do they have most of their day? Like for real. Because I'm going to be honest, y'all, I can have infinite amount of peace here. Infinite. Okay? I like, because I got my own way of getting around. I got my own money. Okay? And that's just the truth. So if somebody do come here that might be toxic, I don't have to be around them. I have a way to get around. Okay? I keep enough money to rent a motel room. I'm just saying, y'all. And I don't glamorize being around toxic people. So, and my family members, they tend to work a lot. Okay? My daughter's family, so they ain't coming here. They're not running here to be toxic. Okay, they're actually pretty much all of them is introverts. They're mostly introverts, meaning they're only people that like to talk to family members, but they pretty much alone a lot. Like we are. I'm mostly an introvert, y'all. Y'all may not think that because I'm talking on YouTube, but offline, I don't have no friends. I might have somebody I might help out once a year or something like that, but I've always been a solo person. Okay? And I don't have a lot of time with my husband either. So I'm just alone. But I found myself taking for granted the peace that I was having. And because when I first came on these apps, I was like seeing the real fancy homes. And I just couldn't see that, like, I have this beautiful park over here. Everything's at my fingertips. And I have peace like all day. Okay? Listen to this. There's somebody hung right now. But my family is very introverted. Like, we're all kind of introverts. My daughter's an introvert, but she tries not to have friends. Okay. She's mostly all family like I am. Um but she works a lot too. Okay, so and when my daughter come here, we don't fight. Okay, because she has learned about home. That's why she don't buy things anymore. My daughter said, I don't buy things, Mom. I do things. I said, oh, you finally listened to me. She said, I said, you finally listened to me. You stopped buying things. This was 2 years ago. She said, yup, Mom. But I'm just saying, okay? I got health problems going into remission. I got health problems fixing themselves. You know why it's fixing themselves? Because I started giving gratitude for this peace. I'm just telling the truth. I started saying, you know what? I'm not going to sit here sweating over a fancy home when I'm sitting up here with be able to get all the peace I want. I've had people literally say in groups, how are you able to create and write the things that you be writing so great on the first write? I tell them, how peaceful is it in your home? How peaceful is it in your is it? If it ain't that peaceful, then it ain't home. I don't give a damn what's in here. So I tell people, you can say whatever you want with me living in my daughter's great grandmother's home. This is my daughter's great grandmother's home. Okay, and I told her, I don't mind humble living, you know. until I can't walk these steps anymore, which is getting hard, but that's another story. I said, I don't mind humble living until we can't climb the steps really. We'll live there. I told her, but I tell people you can say whatever the hell you want, but I know I got more peace than you. I know I got more peace that if I went to go homeless right now, I didn't burn no bridges. I don't have no bridges out here burned. So there's places for me to go. Okay, I didn't burn no bridges with my family members. We're not talking, but I never said, "Oh, you're nothing but that piece of crap." And I didn't say that to my siblings. Okay, so I'll call them every now and then, like, or text them. I hope everything's fine or whatever. So I ain't burn no bridges. I haven't burned no bridges with my brother-in-law. I didn't burn no bridges that I know of with everybody else. Even those that's not that don't talk to me. I didn't burn no bridges. So whatever. Um, I just haven't burned any bridges. Okay. And if there was any bridges that was burning, we came to a understanding and peaceful closure. Okay. But and the people who do got bridges in my family who got money bridge. Okay. I ain't saying it's a good bridge, but some of my relatives got money bridges made out of money. Okay. But I don't want their bridges. It's fake. The money's cursed. The bridge is cursed. So I don't give a damn about them. So I have a I have I have a peaceful life. Y'all, I'm weird, I'm wacky in here. I could be any kind of way. I don't have to be normal. I don't have to make any damn sense in here because it's quiet. The only thing I don't have peace at sometime is with my babies. My cats. They're teenagers basically, according to cat years. They're in their teens and their 20s. My cats, how they age. So they can't they don't want to listen to me. My cats don't want to listen to me. My two boys in here. But that's common for the younger cats when you have them. And so that's the only problems I have. That's the only thing that causes chaos in this house is my two male cats. Now sometimes me and my husband may not get along, but whatever we was fighting about, it don't be a daily fight. It don't be like a everyday, like, it doesn't turn into that. It may be like, oh, we didn't agree on something that day, you know. But some people are stuck in fight, and it's like all day, every day. That's really messed up. Like people living in homes where it's like all day, every day fighting. I had a sister in that situation, and I ended up telling her boyfriend I ended up telling her boyfriend just to go. I was like, dude, just go, man. This is ridiculous. I said, just go ahead and go. You the male, you go, and you got money, you got more money and all that. You got, you making money out on these streets or whatever. It wasn't illegal. The job that was doing wasn't illegal, but I told him just go ahead and go, yo. Like this stuff is getting wild up in here. Okay. Yep. Ain't that the truth? Woo! Who said that? Joe. Y'all, that's why I don't really deal with them. I ain't trying to be ignorant, but when I see channels go so viral, so fast, I already know. Like, they got somebody there picking up behind their butt. They got somebody there who's willing to pull all the weight. You can't do that in this house. If you try to think that somebody here is pulling all the weight, they will come at you. Like my daughter's family is very blunt. Okay, they're very, very blunt. They like they don't give a damn. They speak their mind. Okay. like water signs do. You know, water signs, they tend to be like I say what the hell I want to say, whatever. But um yeah, they got servants. No one's coming to clean this room up. I got a room to clean. No one's coming to make me breakfast. No one's running to go get my groceries today. That's why y'all see how I'm rushing. I still got my clothes on that I put on yesterday evening. Well, I didn't sleep in this, but I put it on, okay? I ain't wear it for 24 hours, this shirt. But the point is, I had to do this because it's like my schedule is tight. I got to go clean the car out. Okay, I got to take the car to the car wash. I'm going to be at the car wash scrubbing the car out from smelling like caveman because it was a man's car, a working man's car, old fashioned working man's car. So I'm gonna be cleaning it and making it newer, you know, just the inside. I might put some little seat covers over the one seat. It ain't real damage, but you know, I don't want no more stains on it. It's kind of becoming almost like a the way the car is built is definitely a old model, very old model. Like I don't know, that car got to be like 15, 20 years old or something. But yeah, so you all right? Yep, they got people running errands, and doing things for them. They do. There's no way them people can spend hours and hours, you know, hours filming their videos, and then hours editing, and they got everybody, and they're doing everything for themselves. That's a damn lie. That is a damn lie. They got somebody doing the work. I had this channel go. It took me 3 years to get this channel to go viral. And when this channel went viral, I didn't have nobody. I was working at Walmart and the bank while doing YouTube. For real. While planning for my daughter's graduation and grieving over my mother at the same time while doing YouTube. And my thing is, I didn't have nobody to do my laundry in here, cook for me, clean my room, clean this room for YouTube, nothing. I used to be, it got to a point where I was telling my family member, I'm getting burnout. I used to say that, like, doing all this, I got to do at home, running to my yearlies and stuff while doing YouTube, while trying to get things together for our daughter in her last year. I said, while grieving over my mom, I got my mom's stuff. I was so busy that my mother's stuff sat on the porch for 2 weeks. I didn't even have no energy at the end of the day to get my dead mother's stuff off the porch. I was like gradually taking some of it in. I said, I don't even got no energy. After cooking, after running 2 flights with clothes and laundry, after cleaning bathrooms here, this room, get myself together, running to Walmart 4 days a week, all this. Y'all, yep, that's what I had to do. I had to edit videos in here while saying, oh, child. And, you know, I'm just saying, doing lady stuff, running for lady stuff, dealing with fibroids while doing YouTube videos, checking on the laundry while doing YouTube videos. This is why I used to tell y'all on this channel, like, if y'all only knew, I feel so cheated. I used to say, I feel cheated. Y'all don't know what I'm going through in here. I used to say that. Okay, when I was doing like all them real fancy editing videos with memes and stuff and all that, in the 3rd year when I started getting this channel to go viral, y'all don't know what I was going through in here. Running up 2 flights of steps, 6 loads of laundry by myself, putting all them clothes together. Okay, then I was in a mentor program at night. 2 hours before bed, I had to go to school too, like 3 nights a week. And my best, the only thing I had to do was fun. It was like the limelight of my month was I got to go to karaoke. Yay! I get to go to karaoke like 1 hour a month. Yay! It got so bad that my friends were like, "Hey, we call you every weekend and you can't make it, or if you schedule, you had to cancel. You only able to go karaoke with us 1 hour a month. Like it's like you have to go within 2 hours of karaoke." They stopped calling and asking me to go. But I'm saying this because they, their life, their life was more, easy as far as they got to have other people to pick up behind them. Now, for me, my life feels easy and at home because for a long time I didn't know what it was like to have a quiet home. Like what? This is what it's like. I never got that. Never got that. I went from the noisy, demonic home spaces growing up, and we did live in two homes. It was quieter, but there wasn't a lot of stuff going on. But I was so little, I barely remember. But anyway, went from that to like having a child and noise, noise, noise. My daughter's problems, daycare problems, other kids doing stuff to my daycare, hurting my baby, whatever, all type of stuff. But listen, y'all. Okay, about 90% of the time, this is what my house sounds like. Can you imagine just sitting here and hearing all those birds? Sometimes I come up here before I even get on any events. I just sit here like this because it's quiet. This is like one of the quietest rooms in this house. You can still hear the birds, but you can't hear a lot of the traffic of the road. So it's like super quiet in here. And that's what I mean by home is a matter of perspective. Home is depending on how you're made to feel. Okay? And that's just it. And remember, old homes can be if the piping and electricity is working, old homes could always be covered. Let me give you an example. My cousin was living in an old apartment. Okay? Everything was working though. And it was like parts of her wall that was totally just dead, real old or whatever. The plaster was peeling a lot. You know what I saw her do? She was like a decorating genius. I saw her put these beautiful type curtains on that wall, and she hung them in a certain way where it just looks like it looked gorgeous. It was perfect the way she did it. And then I noticed that she had put carpets down on the carpet that was old. And it was like her place like completely transformed. And she didn't even spend much money on it. So home is what you make it. Home is what you gotta take and what you don't gotta take when you're there. And home is whatever leaves you feeling the way you want to feel. Okay? All right. Okay. Bye, everybody. I'll see y'all later. If y'all enjoyed the video, I had to do some of my hair. I wonder if it's curled enough. I might got to do a 2-strand, y'all. My hair is getting long. So now, so when I do it, see, it's getting long. I guess I'll just let it hang if it wants to. All right. Bye, everybody. See y'all later. If you'd like to send a cash appreciation, you can send it to my cash app at money sign Coach V Hunter. Bye, everybody.